I want to start with education. Most people, I contend, a lot of people, I shouldn't say most, will lap this stuff up that your kid doesn't belong to you because they don't know how to educate their kid. They don't want that responsibility. They want to put them on a bus and leave them alone, and they'll say it doesn't matter.
That's a scary thought.
You guys disagree with me? That there's a good portion of Americans that they'll go, libertarianism is maximum responsibility, maximum liberty. That's a lot of work.
People like liberty, but responsibility is frightening.
Right.
And self-reliance is frightening to a lot of people. But I think the alternative, in many cases, is even more frightening. When you see the diminished living standards that comes from big government, when you see the depleted community that comes from big government, the diminished sense of community. And I think that a growing number of Americans, maybe not yet a majority, but a growing number of Americans, really is getting the sense that there is something to maximum freedom and maximum responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, now the problem is that I think when you get into that, there are Z Republicans, libertarians, and A to Z Republicans. Anybody want to comment on, you know what I'm talking about?
I think Rand Paul's been a great example of the pragmatic approach. I think there is a philosophical purity that maybe his father represented with Ron Paul, and I think there is a way to get from A to Z, but you got to take steps. And Rand Paul's doing an effective job. Ted Cruz, Senator Lee. I think they're exposing people to these ideas for the first time. Many young people.
I think it's about communicating a viable alternative. We saw in this election how young people didn't necessarily want to vote for Democrats. They didn't want to vote for the president. That Republicans just didn't offer a viable alternative. We said, don't vote for him. We didn't tell them why not to vote for him and also why they should vote for us.
Well, because many of them believe in, I notice in your book, the second big party. The governments, the Republicans are part of the problem, a big part of the problem. It was a Republican who started the Progressive Party. Mm-hmm. So, I think we have a very short period of time before we start to get people to, the machine destroys Rand Paul and then starts to give you somebody else that will work with the machine, and you'll get a watered down version of whatever the other side is offering. So how do we train people? Where's the starting point? How do you get people into the bandwagon, onto the bandwagon?
Well, I think the very first thing is to educate them that big government isn't free. And they're going to be seeing this in their own lives very soon.
But I think we have a lot of people who believe that. But let's take gay marriage for a second. A lot of people give me a lot of heat because I have said, this is the wrong argument. The argument should be, I don't care what you do in your life. Why is the government telling us what we can and cannot do? If my church wants to marry gay couples or, people and, you'd have to say family members and everything else, if that's what they want to do, that's what they can do. If my church says, no, only man and woman, and only one man and only one woman, that's what they should be allowed to do. But people don't like that argument.
Well, this is the danger of getting government involved in our religious life. Marriage should be privatized. Marriage should be an issue between you, God, and your church, and your spouse. The fact that we got government involved has led to this path. This is a perfect example. The more we get in government involved in our life, it may be, the short term may be something we thought was great, but the outcome is now this.
Too many times I think we will put somebody in with for instance, with education. No child left behind. Mm-hmm. Jeb Bush is now the one who's pushing on the right for Common Core. And we think that it's okay, but we're giving people keys. Another great example is Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. Give them all this stuff. Well, what happens when your guy's not in?
That's absolutely right, and that's why big government conservatism is a failure. Mm-hmm. Big government conservatism is entering into a bidding contest with the left that conservatives and libertarians can never win.